So we're in a higher rate environment. What's resilient so far?
So I think the strongest performers today, I mentioned data centers, logistics, student housing is another sector where, in housing overall, we focus on rental housing, and we have a lot of different forms of rental housing in our portfolio. And all of them have shown a great deal of resiliency simply because there is more demand for housing than there is supply of it. As a country, when you think about housing, we're probably 4 million units shy of where we really should be by now based on just household formation growth since the global financial crisis. But we never really got back to the levels of building that would have delivered that housing. And student housing is, I think, where the opportunity is most specifically generating a lot of strong cash flow growth for us and our investors, because in the growing university towns, universities that are seeking to expand their student body, housing is there's a great deal of demand for specific purpose-built housing that isn't necessarily there today. And so we have an opportunity that we created through a take private of a company called American Campus Communities. It's the largest student housing provider in the country. And we, through that team, not only own and manage terrific housing assets adjacent to some of the top universities in the country, but we can also now partner with those universities to add new supply to meet those housing shortages that they are experiencing.
So what are some examples? Are there certain markets? Is this a domestic phenomenon, I guess, or is this a global one?
Well, student housing for us has been a global phenomenon, and really our first investment was in the UK. We bought the second largest student housing provider in the UK. It's a company called IQ. And that, as well as some recent investments we've made in Australia and things we're looking at in Canada, are largely predicated off the desire of students from all around the world to pursue an English language education and often technical degrees. And they're coming from all around the world to the UK, to Australia, to Canada to pursue that. And those countries are really looking at education as somewhat of an export. And where the US has had more challenging visa policies, those countries have been able to capitalize on that and are seeking to grow their universities, but they need housing to do that. In the UK today, there's 6 times more student demand than there are student housing beds for them. And so we see this as a long-term opportunity, not only in those markets, but here in the US as well, where universities that are seeking to grow need the housing to be able to support that.